So, from what I've seen so far, Lightyear is a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to getting to see the whole thing. Um, Angus, I'll start with you and then Galen. So, one of the things that I love about the franchise, having grown up with it, is that a lot of people seem to forget that there was already a Buzz Lightyear spinoff in the form of the animated TV show with Patrick Warburton having played the character instead of Tim Allen. And so, what was it like? Since you've worked with the franchise for so long, what was it like keeping that show in mind while you were also developing this film?
Well, that show was developed when we were doing Toy Story 2, and I always imagined that it was like the Ewoks or the droids to the Star Wars universe. So I feel like when they were making Return of the Jedi, they weren't thinking about droids, and they weren't thinking about Ewoks. So that's about as much as I thought about it, is, in that way.
As in not at all.
Not at all, because in my mind, like, that hasn't gotten produced. Like, say that exists in the universe of the Toy Story universe. There's that intro, the animated Pixar intro that incidentally I directed many years ago for that. And so it's always the way that if anything, that's a metaphor for the way we viewed that. It's like that's a separate thing. There's a wall of a TV between them. So really that is meant to take place in the same timeline as Star Wars to Ewoks.
Gotcha. Okay. So what about Lightyear, though, for you, Angus, and then Galen, if you'd like to talk on it as well. But I mean, for Angus specifically, what was it about Lightyear that you wanted to make your feature directorial debut with?
Well, I really liked the character of Buzz, and I really like sci-fi as a setting. I feel like there have not been very many good sci-fi movies in the history of, that's like there's a lot of bad ones. There's some great ones, and it's a really challenging airspace to operate within. The potential for, it's like when you're making a sci-fi movie, there's so much mythology and exposition you can get locked into, and you only have 90 minutes to tell a Pixar movie. So Buzz Lightyear afforded a nice compromise between all of those things, of having a little bit of an established ethos of his universe, but then a lot of opportunity to tell what was, as he was originally designed to be, kind of an amalgam of all of the sci-fi things that I was excited about as a kid. And so it was a way to both explore the nostalgia of the films that I grew up with, and at the same time, work within the Pixar framework and try to like push it a little bit in a direction towards a more straightforward sci-fi action adventure film.
And so, Galen, for you, I mean, you've been a producer on a number of Pixar things, including, of course, the Toy Story franchise. But what was it about Angus's vision with Lightyear that you felt you wanted to contribute as a producer as well?
I am a sci-fi geek through and through. So there was just, he didn't really have to sell it to me at all. I was in from the second that I was like, oh, yeah, I want to make that movie. So that was really never a problem. And I think that the opportunity to build a crew that could really let loose their creative juices to make something like this, it's been pretty darn inspiring. And this crew puts up imagery that every day I look at it when we're reviewing it in the theater, and I am in awe of what they are making. They're just taking it, beyond anything I could have hoped for. So it's been exceptional. It's been a great experience.
So now, what would you say were some of the biggest creative challenges, Agnes, since you talked about trying to find a compromise between the Pixar mold and your desire for really heavy sci-fi? I mean, what would you say were some of the biggest creative challenges in finding that balance?
Well, the character of Buzz Lightyear is a secondary sidekick character who helps inform Woody on his journey for change in all the Toy Story films. There's never been a movie about Buzz. And making a movie, taking a sidekick and making him a protagonist is always a big challenge. And so how that manifested itself on this film was trying to find the right tone. You're going to have a character that we're familiar with, a certain aspect of that character, but just the Space Ranger of Buzz in the Toy Story movies is not a lot of screen time. He starts to change almost immediately. And that's a very two-dimensional character if you spread it out over a feature length. So we needed to expand that. And in doing so, because the character changes, you need to have a place for them to start, a place for them to go, while still honoring and having a recognizable Buzz Lightyear character. So that was a pretty big challenge creatively.
So I know in the presentation that you had last week that you showed a timeline in which this was basically made over the course of a decade. But what would you say were, for both of you, was it like working on this film in the midst of the pandemic where there was a lot of working from home and stuff like that? What was it like for both of you, that experience?
Well, initially when we first went home, it was are we really going to be able to do this? Because I mean, it's such a collaborative art form, and we never had any situation where we were trying to do anything remotely with our films. And so it really, I think the first even 6 months, it was still like, are we really doing this? Can we really do this? So there was that aspect of it. There were times that were just exceptional when, you know, I can think of one of our directing animators who just, his baby's on his back and he's giving animation notes and it's all just happening. And you just get this window into how people live their lives and balance their lives and that work-life balance, which ultimately there's a lot of that theme in this film. So being able to be exposed to the entire crew's, you know, juggling of their work-life balance while telling this story was quite inspirational, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's inextricable from the pandemic as far as the production. To make a movie collectively together but separated was the biggest technical challenge of the film, and the biggest mental challenge of it too, in the sense that the films require so much extra work, and that's usually fueled by a collaboration of physical proximity. And so without that, it had an additional strain, but it was quite profound as far as such a moment in history, and then and how it should affect everyone universally. But it was, for me, the way I look at the film is like, it was nice to have that project. Like I was very fortunate to have this creative outlet in an extraordinarily difficult time period.
Well, that's wonderful that you got to have that. For my final question, with building up this world around Lightyear for the film, I know Pixar is very, you guys don't usually do sequels, but have you thought at all about branching out further with Lightyear and his characters for future stories?
Don't we have like a pinky promise or one of these? Like, we're not going to talk about it now until we're done.
No, to me, the way I look at it is, what I liked about Star Wars is that it always allowed for the expansion of what the world could be. And I think that open-endedness is often what's most exciting. It's when you start closing those doors and connecting those things that it becomes less compelling. So our focus right now is honestly finishing this movie, but it's meant to be this like island of a narrative that is very much, we don't start when Buzz is born. Like, it is very much this thing that you would imagine stuff before and afterwards. I think connecting it is risky, but you know, who knows? We'll see.
Well, I look forward to seeing the rest of this film. I've truly enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I can't wait to spread the word. So thank you both so much for taking the time to chat.
Take care.